HOA shut down my barbecue not knowing it was for disabled veterans charity. Have you ever poured your heart into helping others, only to have someone ruin it for no good reason? That's exactly what happened to me, Sarah Thompson, when I planned a charity barbecue in my backyard to raise funds for disabled veterans. What started as a day of hope and community turned into a battle against one woman's ego. Our HOA president, Karen Whitaker. It was a warm June afternoon in our quiet Florida neighborhood, Countryside Villas. The plan was simple: host a barbecue to support Homes for Veterans, a charity that builds accessible homes for disabled vets. I'd spent weeks organizing, securing donations, rallying neighbors, and even getting local veterans like Frank, a double amputee from the Gulf War, to share their stories. We had tables set up with red, white, and blue streamers, a grill sizzling with burgers, and a banner proudly proclaiming "Support our heroes." The air smelled of charcoal and hope, with kids playing and music floating through the yard. But then Karen showed up. She marched across my lawn like a general storming a battlefield, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. "This is an unauthorized gathering," she barked, her voice cutting through the laughter. "You're violating HOA rules, no large events without board approval." I was stunned. I'd sent an email to the HOA board weeks ago, detailing the charity event, and received no response. I assumed silence meant consent, especially for something as wholesome as a veterans fundraiser. But Karen wasn't having it. She pointed to a vague rule in the HOA handbook about disruptive gatherings and demanded we shut it down. I tried reasoning with her. "Karen, this is for disabled veterans. We're raising money to help them live independently. Surely you can make an exception." Her eyes narrowed and she snapped, "Rules are rules, Sarah. You should have submitted a formal request. This is a residential area, not a fairground." The crowd murmured in disbelief. Frank, gripping his wheelchair, spoke up, his voice steady but shaking with emotion. "Ma'am, I lost my legs serving this country. This event is for people like me. You're really going to stop it?" Karen didn't flinch. "Take it up with the board," she said, turning on her heel. That's when the truth started to unravel. I learned from a neighbor, Maggie, that Karen had a personal vendetta. Maggie, a retired nurse who'd lived in the neighborhood for decades, pulled me aside. "Sarah, this isn't about rules. Karen's been gunning for you since you challenged her at the last HOA meeting about those ridiculous mailbox color regulations." It was a twist I hadn't seen coming. Months ago, I'd questioned Karen's obsession with enforcing uniformity. Every mailbox had to be eggshell white or you'd face fines. I'd called it petty, and apparently Karen hadn't forgotten. This barbecue shutdown wasn't about policy, it was revenge. The confrontation escalated as more neighbors joined the fray. Robert, a history teacher and Vietnam vet, stepped forward, holding up a flyer for the event. "This is about helping heroes, not breaking rules. Karen, you're abusing your power." The crowd cheered, but Karen doubled down. She called the local sheriff's department, claiming we were causing a public disturbance. Within minutes, 2 deputies arrived, looking as confused as we were. One of them, Deputy Harris, a veteran himself, listened as I explained the situation. His face hardened when he heard the event was for disabled vets. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "this is a charity event. You sure you want to push this?" Karen's face flushed red, but she insisted on enforcing the rules. The deputies didn't shut us down. They couldn't legally, since we were on private property and had permits for the gathering. But Karen's actions had already done damage. Some guests, intimidated by her threats of fines, started packing up. The joyful atmosphere was crumbling, and I felt my heart sink. That's when Frank rolled forward, his voice booming. "I didn't survive war to be bullied in my own neighborhood." He pointed at the banner, now half-torn from Karen's earlier rampage through the setup. "This is for my brothers and sisters who can't fight anymore. You're not just stopping a BBQ, spitting on their sacrifice." The crowd erupted, not in anger, but in solidarity. Neighbors who'd been on the fence started chanting, "Let us stay. Let us stay." Even Maggie, usually soft-spoken, grabbed a megaphone and rallied the group. "We're not letting one person ruin this for our veterans." The energy shifted, and Karen, for the first time, looked rattled. Her clipboard trembled in her hands as she realized she was outnumbered. But she wasn't done yet. She pulled out her phone, threatening to call her lawyer and slap us with a lawsuit for defamation and noncompliance. That's when Deputy Harris stepped in again. "Ma'am, you're welcome to call your lawyer, but you're escalating a situation that doesn't need to be. Florida law protects charitable events like this on private property. You might want to check your own rules." Karen's empire began to crumble. Robert, who'd been quietly recording the whole ordeal on his phone, uploaded the video to a local community group on X. Within hours, it went viral, with thousands of comments condemning Karen's actions. HOA Karen shuts down veterans charity BBQ shameful. One post read. The backlash was swift. Local news outlets picked up the story, and a reporter from Fox 35 Orlando arrived to interview Frank and me. The segment aired that night, exposing Karen's overreach to a wider audience. Neighbors started a petition to recall her as HOA president, and by the next morning it had over 500 signatures. The final blow came when Homes for Veterans, the charity we were supporting, got wind of the situation. They sent a representative, Maria, to our neighborhood the next day. Maria revealed that the barbecue had already raised $5,000 before Karen's interference, and with the media attention, donations were pouring in online, nearly $20,000 in 24 hours. But Maria didn't stop there. She confronted Karen at an emergency HOA meeting armed with legal documents. Under the Fair Housing Act, HOAs cannot unreasonably restrict events supporting disabled individuals, especially veterans, she said, citing precedent from a similar case in Tennessee where an HOA was fined for blocking a veteran's access ramp. Karen's face went pale as Maria continued, "We're prepared to take legal action if this harassment persists." Karen tried to deflect, stammering about procedural violations, but the room wasn't buying it. Robert stood up, his voice calm but cutting. "You've turned this community against itself, Karen. Step down or we'll vote you out." The room erupted in applause, and Karen, cornered, stormed out. Days later, she resigned as HOA president, citing personal reasons. The board issued a public apology, and the new president, Maggie, approved the barbecue to be rescheduled with full HOA support. In the end, we held the barbecue again, bigger and better. Over 200 people showed up, including veterans from across the state. We raised $50,000 for Homes for Veterans, enough to fund accessibility upgrades for 3 veterans' homes. Frank gave a speech, tears in his eyes, thanking the community for standing up. "This isn't just about a barbecue," he said. "It's about reminding us what we fight for each other." Looking back, I'm proud we didn't back down. Karen's power trip exposed her true colors, but it also brought our community together in a way I never expected. It showed me that even one person's ego can't stop a group united for a cause. So, what do you think? Was Karen just enforcing rules, or did she cross a line? Share your thoughts below, because I'd love to hear how you'd handle an HOA like this.